My name is Joe Prim, and I am the host of Prepare.Defend.Lead. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I am going to cover my experience with the Elliot Hulse 14-day rational fast. I'm also going to talk about the opportunities that you have in your life and what you are doing with them. So I hope you stay tuned. I'll catch you on the other side of the intro.
The comfort and distractions of today collide to indulge our desires and provide a slow death by apathy. A superior primitive ethos exists. Prepare for tomorrow. Defend what you value and lead those you love. This mindset is the foundation of living an authentic life as a bold, disciplined man resolute in your mission. Prepare, defend, lead. Your mission. Own it.
All right, guys. How cool is this? Back 2 weeks in a row after the long break over Christmas and New Year's. I started out this year, as some of you guys know, by doing what Elliot Hulse has named his 14-day rational fast. I'm not going to go into the program too much at all, just because I think if you want to do it, you should pay him his fee for his program and jump into it that way. But I will share with you my experience, both the positives and the negatives, as I went through 14 days. Something that a lot of people are out there maybe are afraid to do. And at the end of this, I'll let you know what my stats were as far as pounds and body fat loss, and let you know if I think you should go ahead and jump in on a challenge like this. So here we go. I'm going to break this down. I wrote a few little notes so that I can stay focused on this and be clear in my message to you all. Here are the advantages. There was an increased sense of smell. It was unreal when you would walk into a place, either into your home after a day of work, when my wife was preparing dinner for her and the kids, or even walking into a place of business like a gas station where maybe they had popcorn popping or they got some hot dogs on those little roller grills. It was unbelievable things that you would never notice at all. All of a sudden, that sense of smell would be overwhelming when you walked in. And it wasn't necessarily a negative having that sense of smell and smelling that food. A lot of times it satiated the hunger inside of you, just getting that good smell, that good whiff of meat grilling or some sort of spices was enough to kind of satiate the feeling and make you feel content for a little while longer. One of the strangest things was sharper vision. And maybe it was just my contacts were sitting a little bit better in my eyes for this last couple weeks. I'm not sure. But my increased sense of vision goes along with my beliefs on fasting. And I'll get into that here as we wrap this up. But sharper focus, for sure. A lot more focused, a lot more present in what I was doing as far as tasks, whether that be driving, just a lot more focused on the road and what was going on, a lot more clarity in what people were talking about or saying as I was listening to podcasts or having conversations, just a lot, the ability to focus on things and the ability to be present was definitely there. One of the interesting things is you're going through this is you realize that you want to eat things so often when you're not even hungry. You know, it was one thing when you had the hunger pangs and you you were actually hungry, where your body was craving something to eat because it wanted something, or even maybe needed something to eat. Completely different, though, when you would not feel those hunger pains even after, 24 or 48 hours without eating, and you weren't really feeling any hunger pains, but you walked by the pantry and it's open and some of your favorite snacks are sitting there, or your kids are snacking on something, and boy, oh boy, you wanted to grab a handful, and obviously was not needed, obviously would have just been extra calories that your body did not need, but yet food for many of us just becomes a form of having fun or a form of enjoyment. And, a lot of people in this world right now enjoying themselves to death with food. It gave me the opportunity to know myself better, to have a better understanding of what I am capable of what I am able to live without, and how far I am able to push myself. I don't honestly feel like I even pushed myself as far as I could have because of the way the rational fast is set up, but I'm content with where I'm at. It took away a lot of the fear. I had gone through shorter periods of fasting, and as a challenge to myself, and this showed me that I can push that even further, and gave me a better sense of not worrying about eating or not, of knowing that I can go days at a time without eating, and rather than getting weak or slow or tired, it actually can increase my performance. It also, when I would get to my days where I could eat a meal, it gave you a very, very different sense of gratitude for the food that you were eating. The taste was about 1,000 times more powerful than it normally would be. But there was also an interesting gratefulness for the person that was preparing the meal, which would be my wife normally. So it was not just a gratitude for the food that you were eating, but also a gratefulness for the one preparing it. So here's a few of the negatives. At night, you are tired. You will be tired out. You'll be burned out. You'll be ready to go to bed come nighttime. And I slept great throughout. It's hard to work out, especially towards this end of this second week where I had gone a lot of hours with very little meals. I had cut my runs short all week, and I ran 2 miles on Saturday morning, and then I went over to my sister's house and helped move some furniture around, came home with that furniture, and moved it all into our house. And after that, normally on a Saturday morning, doing the amount of I won't call it exercise, but just normal work that I had done would not have fazed me one bit. But on Saturday, after I did that, I had some other projects I wanted to do, so I grabbed the instructions from the other projects that I was looking to get into, took my shoes off and had to sit down on the floor in the living room, actually laid down, read through all the directions. So I laid down for probably 20, 30 minutes while I looked through the directions, probably laid around for at least 45 minutes before I got back up and was able to get back to it. So there comes a point at these furthest points of going without eating where you're tired. You tire quickly, you fatigue much faster, and than you normally would if you start pushing yourself. So not that that's a bad thing. I wasn't wiped out for the day or done for the day. I got back up and continued working the rest of the day, and did very well. But there are going to be times where you might have to cut back your workout. You might have to cut back your activities enough to stick with what you were able to do. And then the other thing would be, there were times there were moments where my emotions would get away from me. I wouldn't say really hangry. I wasn't in an angry, grumpy mood, but sometimes things would hit me the wrong way, and I would react a lot faster in a negative way than I normally would, where I'd be just a little bit slower to get upset about something. So that happened a few times. But so my belief when I started this fast out was that fasting is very much a natural thing for humans. That we used to, when we roamed the prairies and the forests and the woodlands and lived in tribes and small groups of people, that we would go through periods where we didn't eat much. And then we would go through periods where we ate a lot and we would gorge ourselves. And then we would again go through periods where we didn't. And in order to go through those periods of fasting or not eating, obviously we couldn't be lazy and tired and dull and brains that weren't functioning properly. Because then you would never be able to find or hunt down or track down that next meal. So in order to function, as your body's burning through those fat stores, I believed before this that your senses will probably be heightened and you would be able to push yourself to a different level. And it was very interesting to see my thoughts really come true. And the heightened focus and vision and sense of smell and everything, to me, goes right back to putting you into a place where you would be much better off for hunting, for tracking down food, for spotting different things. So that was kind of interesting side note to this. So at the end of the day, it seems a little bit hard to believe, but I was able to lose between 14 and 15 pounds. My scale's a little sketchy, but I'm going to say I lost between 14 and 15 pounds and lost about 5% of my body fat. So I started up in the high range on the body fat and found myself down into the category where they call it ideal body fat, right in the middle of the ideal body fat range. So if you were looking for a way to lose between 10 and 20 pounds, also to rid your body of the toxicity of sugars, rid your body of the toxicity of all the different manufactured foods that we eat, and be able to potentially lose 5+% of your body fat in 2 weeks, if that piques your interest, I would do this. For me, it was a net plus. This has been a great challenge for me. At times it's been rough. At times it's been really simple. But at the end of the day, at the end of this 2 weeks here, I'm very happy that I did it. It went better than I had expected. And I'm happy that I was able to make it through. Fasting will definitely be a bigger part of my life going forward. As I move forward here, I'm not exactly sure if I'll do like a week fast once a quarter, or I'm going to fast, once a week or a couple days a week, or exactly how I'm going to flush this out to make it work and to be consistent with it. I find that a lot of people end up not being consistent with things because they make plans or give themselves plans that they will never be able to live up to. So it's really important to me as I go into this year, as I figure things out, like how I'm going to achieve and keep fasting, because there's also a lot of other great health benefits that go along with fasting. After a certain amount of hours, your stem cells start to rebuild themselves. So there are a lot of really, really healthy things that happen to your body while you're fasting. And at the same time, you're not inputting a lot of negative things into your body while you're fasting. So it's definitely something I'm going to incorporate into my lifestyle as I move forward. How exactly I'm going to do that, maybe I'll save that for another episode as I kind of flush that out. But I'm going to enjoy some food this next week, and I will definitely be shying away from a lot of things that I used to enjoy, and probably monitoring my meal proportions a lot more, and I probably will be skipping just a lot more meals, just because now I know that I can. I'm comfortable with it. It's not as important to me as it once was to make sure I was hitting all 3 meals a day plus snacks, right? So overall, I would definitely recommend it. If you have any questions for me on it, you can DM me on Instagram. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Direct message me on Instagram, and I'll answer your questions the best that I can. And if I can't, I'll try to track down somebody that can answer those questions for you. But it's something I would definitely recommend. It's not only great for your body, but it's great for your mind, great for you spiritually to deny yourself something that your body craves so much. And we have so much of it in front of us all the time that it's a big denial to stay away from it. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, give me a follow over on Instagram. You'll have an opportunity to check out the PDL Raw daily show that I'm doing over there. That's just my opportunity to kind of off the cuff share something that I've learned that day, share what I've been doing that day. Some days I'm just talking about some of the things I've done on the new Montero with the Prepare.Defend.Lead Overland project and the Overland team. Just some things that I've been doing with that, or it could be something I'm learning with my family. I just kind of share a little bit of what's going on that day. So you can check that out, 2 to 5 minutes. It's usually around 5 o'clock on Instagram. You can all follow me there at Prepare.Defend.Lead. So earlier this week, I sat down, as I do every morning, to go through my morning ritual, and I don't remember what day it was, but the one day I sat down and I posted this verse from the Bible on Instagram. And it was Proverbs 2, because I had probably just read Proverbs 2. When wisdom enters your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul, discretion will preserve you, understanding will keep you. That's Proverbs 2:10-11. So I posted that, thought it was a great verse, and had absolutely no plans on writing anything after that. But as it happens, I started writing and didn't stop. And I want to share that message here with you guys because it came from my heart. And then I'm going to move on to the main message here for this podcast. So as we live in this world right now where there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of manipulation going on, I thought this would be a good word for everybody. It says, do not allow yourself to get sucked into the distraction, the chaos, the abyss of fear and emotion porn. These things make you an emotional pawn in somebody else's game. These things which you have no control will steal your greatest gifts, joy, peace, time, energy, and flush them down the toilet, never to be recovered. Now more than ever, it is obvious that we must zoom in off of the big picture, where we have absolutely no control, and in on our lives where we do have total control. This is a scary proposition. Most of us don't really want to look at ourselves honestly. We are not happy with who we are, what we have done, or the direction we are headed. That it is much easier to say, text, or Facebook about what others who don't know us or care about us should do or shouldn't do, rather than look at ourselves with our flaws, our lies, and our weaknesses. Change and growth require commitment and sacrifice in the reality that you are responsible for where you are and nobody else. Stop looking to change the swamp in DC and change the swamp in you. How are you doing spiritually, physically, financially, and relationally? This is where you can make actual change. This is where you have the ability to make an impact. This is where you can gain hope, confidence, and strength. Today is the day. Focus in on you. Focus in on squaring away you and your family. This is your responsibility. This is your mission. Nobody else can save you from a life of apathy. Someday you will answer for you, not anybody else. And this is where your focus must be. So that segues real nicely into what I wanted to talk about here in this episode, which is the opportunities that we have that we are not utilizing, that we are not paying attention to, that we are not leveraging. So probably a lot of you that listen to this podcast have heard of a story in the Bible called the Parable of the Talents. For those that haven't, when Jesus spoke in the Bible, in the New Testament, he spoke in parables, which is kind of a type of story that would be very relatable and understandable to the people of that time. A lot of times we can read this stuff in the modern times, and it might not quite make as much sense because it was written for a different time period. The story, the message is real as ever, as important as ever. But the way that the story was told can sometimes get confused. In this story, the parable of the talents, a lot of people confuse talents for your skills, your gifts, the things that have been blessed upon you. Maybe you're great at playing the piano, and people say that's a talent. Or maybe you're great at learning new languages, and that's a talent. In this story, when it talks about talents, talents are referring to a sum of money. And I have even heard people say that that sum of money of a talent may have even been equal to like $1 million in our times. So as I read through this story, and some of you might not be very familiar with the Bible, and some of you may completely stray the other way and not like to normally have anything to do with the Bible. But it is an ancient book, and it is a book that's filled with wisdom, and I go to it because I believe it's true, but I also go to it because I learn a lot from these words. And this is just such a case here in the story of the parable of the talents. It says, so I'm going to read straight out of, this is from a book called Matthew, and this is chapter 25, and this is verse 14 through 30, and this happens to be, as I'm reading it here on the computer screen, the English Standard Version. It says, for it will be, so Jesus is talking to a crowd of people, a group of people, almost like a pastor, more like a teacher, as he's giving out this message. So he's kind of just with these people, and he's giving them this message, and as a story. He's telling them a story, and they can get the message and get the understanding of what that story is based on their knowledge. So here's what Jesus is saying. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. So he gave his best servant, let's just say, a large sum of money of 5 talents. The second one he gave not quite as big of a sum of money of 2 talents. And the third one he gave 1 talent. And it says here that was each according to their ability. So he gave his best servant, obviously, the most money. It says, he who had received 5 talents went at once and traded with them and made 5 talents more. So this guy, obviously, he was smart. He went out and he was able to double his money. So also, he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. Again, the second servant doubled the money. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug it in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, maybe even years, the master of those servants comes back to settle accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents? Here, I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward. Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 talents more. And his master again said, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also came forward that had received 1 talent, saying, Master, I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you do not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to him with the 10 talents. For everyone who will be to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness, in a place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So, a pretty simple story here, right? Really? Master gives a large sum of money to his servants. The one who got the most went out and doubled it. The one who got the middle amount, he went out and doubled the money. And the lazy, slothful servant did nothing with his money. Went and buried it in the ground because he was afraid. Now, growing up and hearing that story, I often thought and was taught many times that the talents were referring to my talents, my skills of singing, or like I had said before, playing the piano, or maybe doing one of a million other things. But throughout my life, I've never been one that was very talented at any single thing. I can be very good at a lot of different things, and pretty good at even more things, and okay at many, many things, but I've never been one where somebody would say, hey, you're really talented in this area. So for me, this story really never meant much. And in fact, if anything else, could be used as a crutch to say, it doesn't pertain to me because I don't have any of these talents. But as time's gone on, as if I have reflected on this story many, many times and thought through what the meaning is for me in this story, and I've really come to realize, especially through these last years as I have began to push myself and challenge myself and have a drive to not only become a better husband and to become a better father and to become a better leader, but also to take charge of what's going on here with Prepare, Defend, Lead, and push this mission forward to equip and encourage men to be more than what they are at this moment, I've started to look at this parable very much differently. And what I see in this parable is that we live in a time right now, despite what's going on with the presidential election, despite what's going on with this party and that party, despite the distractions of what's going on with this celebrity or this new music release, despite the distractions of what's going on with the Super Bowl coming up, or what's going on, or who's going to be in the halftime show, or what's going on with, will be happening with baseball season this next year, or happened with hunting season this last year, despite all the distractions, big and small, that are all around us, the reality is we live in a time where we have more freedom and more opportunity than anybody throughout past history. We have more access to knowledge right now, today, in the palms of our hand than anybody's ever had throughout history. Not only do we have more knowledge, but we also have more time. You say, well, how in the world do we have more time? Well, I'll tell you how you have more time. Just got done talking about fasting. Eating is a necessity. Water is a necessity for life. And shelter are necessities for life. All three of those things are things that you would need to provide for yourself on a daily basis. Whether through hunting daily, through trapping, through growing and harvesting and turning what you harvested into food, all of these things, milking cows, weeding gardens, planting seeds, feeding goats, hunting, trapping, building shelter, repairing your shelter, all of these things took a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of energy, and none of those things do most of us do on a daily or a regular basis. Even something like right now, it's wintertime. Most of you turn your thermostat so that the heat comes on at a certain temperature, keeps your home nice and warm. Well, throughout the history of man, it's been a very, very relative short amount of time that we had that type of convenience. Before that, like I did even at the homestead, people cut down their own trees with an axe, chopped that up into firewood to burn, and kept a fire going all winter long in order to keep their house warm and livable. And again, those types of things took a tremendous amount of time. People back then did not have the type of free time that we have now. Now, a lot of us may be working a lot of hours with work. Some of us have other side things going on. We do still fill our lives with activities and things that we want to do. But so much of what was required of people for thousands of years is no longer required of us. Just an example, too, I wrote down some ideas on our ability and access to knowledge. We have access to video, YouTube, Vimeo, how many different video platforms where you can go on and learn what you need to learn. I mean, even for me, got a project coming up, right, with this Mitsubishi Montero. One of the things I would like to do is change out the spark plugs. What do? I go to YouTube. Somebody directs you right through each and every step of the process to get your spark plugs changed. So video, we have access to books like never before through libraries. Books are cheap if you want to order a good classic books on eBay or on Amazon. You can order books on Kindle and get them instantly on your Kindle for a good price. We have audiobooks. How new are audiobooks? How long have audiobooks been around? More than 20 years? Probably not. But in that 20 years, look how this area has grown. So between Audible, getting books from your local library on audio, it's an unbelievable way to open up yourself to listening to books while you're on your daily commute, rather than listening to the same 15 songs on the country western station that run on a loop. Podcast. There are podcasts now on every single topic out there. Courses. For a long time, I really kind of was in a position myself with courses and webinars to hold back my money. To say, no, I'm not going to pay for that. I can figure this stuff out myself. I'll watch some YouTube videos and read some blogs and read some books, and I'll figure this stuff out for myself. More recently, I've came to the realization that if for $100 or for $50 or $25, somebody can teach me in several hours or a couple of days what would take me weeks or months or years to learn, but it allows me the opportunity to speed up the learning process, then I'm on it. Just like I paid for this book, sort of almost a course, I guess, this with Elliot Hulse on the rational fast. This is something that I wanted to do. This is how I wanted to start out my year. Could have I dug up all the information that he had down in his book to study fasting, study the best way to do it, what I was going to go through, what are some things that can help out along the way as far as things to drink to help satiate the hunger? Could have I looked up and found all that information myself? Yes. It's all out there. It's all information everywhere. But the time it would take to hunt down all the knowledge that I was able to have packed right into that book, to read through that book and be 100% sure that I could start that out on January 4th or whatever it was, that I would be able to start that out and that I knew I would had the knowledge to get through it, is kind of priceless. So I'm a big fan now of webinars and courses, and of course, more and more we're having live events on the computer, right? Where you can attend via Zoom. You know, it used to cost a lot of money to go to some of these events that were clear across the country and might cost you a couple $100 for tickets to get into the event, plus several $100s for hotel and hundreds of dollars for your flight and car rental and meals. And now, more and more we have the opportunity to attend live events from the comfort of our home for a fraction of the cost that they would have normally cost us. So with all of these opportunities, all of this time, really at our fingertips, it's right there for us. What is our excuse? What will we have as a reason on our deathbed or before a holy God, if you believe that that's where we're going to end up at the end of our life, as I do? What will be our excuse for not leveraging all of these opportunities, all of this opportunity for knowledge, all of this opportunity as far as time? What will be our excuse for not using it, for not leveraging it for the betterment of our family, for the betterment of our relationships, for the betterment of our businesses, for the betterment of our communities, for the betterment of our churches, for the benefit of our states? What will we have as an excuse? And in my mind, the way I look at things right now, and the way I am trying to live my life, and the way I am pushing myself forward, I do not see an excuse. I do not see an excuse for idle time. I do not see an excuse for slothfulness or laziness. I see no time for that. Is there time for relaxation and time to be present with my wife and time to be present with my children, going on a walk or going to the park, going on vacation or walking the dog, going to visit our new home that's being built? Yes. But those, I would argue, are of just as much importance as your job, if not more important. They're just as important as making sure you're healthy. All of these things are important. And we have no excuse for not living our life as if those things are important. We have no excuse for getting caught up in what's going on in this world. We have no excuse for getting caught up in the politics for which we have no control. We have no excuse for getting caught up in what's going on in this magazine or in this sport or these things. Can they be a part of your life as an enjoyment, as a pleasure? Yes, but even then, I believe that they need to have their place and they need to be put directly in their place. There's nothing wrong with those things. But when those things become your life is when there's a problem. When your wife, your children, yourself, your God are not your life, we have a major problem. And I feel that I laid out a pretty good reason why we will not have an excuse. When we're sitting on our deathbed, we will not have an excuse for not making the most of where we are, the time period we're living in. It's time to stop pouting. It's time to stop whining. It's time to stop complaining about what other people are doing for which we have absolutely no control. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen a month from now. We don't know what's going to happen 2 years from now. But you know what? 6 months ago, you didn't know either. 2 years ago, you didn't know either. We don't know. And you can't know. What I do know is that if we focus in on ourselves, I know that I can be a better husband, a better father, a better leader, a better podcaster, better at doing videos on Instagram, better at designing t-shirts, maybe getting an event started as I've been trying to do, maybe get a house built, maybe get a Prepare.Defend.Lead overland team together. If I work at those things, those are tangible things that I can do. Those are tangible things that I have some control over. I'll add another one to the list. An author, right? When I finish that book. These are things that for which we have control. The things that we don't have control of, we need to let them go. We need to let them go and be what they are. We need to be prepared. We need to be in a position to defend. And we need to be leaders. And leaders don't whine about things, don't complain about what's going on. They find solutions. You know, there are 1,000 podcasts out there that you could be listening to where all the host does and gets paid thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year to complain about what's going on in this world today. To complain and pick apart policy, to complain and pick apart a party, to complain and pick apart whatever it might be. I believe that's the easy way. That's the easy way out, is to point your finger and blame other people for your problems. I'm here, this little tiny lonely voice, this little tiny birthday candle in the dark saying, worry about yourself. You have the power. You have the opportunity of time. You have the opportunity with knowledge to make yourself a completely different person this year by the end of this year. You can change yourself into somebody that is unrecognizable by the end of this year if you're willing to make the commitment, make the sacrifice, and make the decision that you are not happy with you. Has nothing to do with a political party, has nothing to do with these crazy people that are running our country into the ground, that they can do what they want to do. But the more men that we can raise up that are good, strong fathers, husbands, leaders, the better our opportunities moving forward. The more opportunities we will have to put the right people in the right places. I don't know about you, but I am up for the challenge. I am fighting tooth and nail every day for all of this. Because not only am I trying to do this for myself, I want to build up and wake up a group of men that are willing to feel and want to do the same. So I hope that got some of you guys motivated. I hope that some of you guys are at a point where you're either doing that. You're fighting every day, fighting for every inch of yourself to not respond the way that you want to respond to your wife, or to not ignore the cues that your daughter is giving you that she needs some help because you're busy watching football again. You can have more of an impact than you know the moment you decide that you are going to be present and that you are going to be different. This is a big challenge, but we got this. Go to Prepare.Defend.Lead.com for links to this episode and to support this podcast and help me put a little bit of money into my pocket so that I can pay for this podcast and pay to keep these episodes going. I would appreciate it. I got roasted to order coffee on the website. I got, I think, 6 different varieties. Go check those out. Order something from there. It does not come overnight like something you're going to order from Amazon. But that's because this stuff is coming out of California, fresh roasted, to order. The other thing I got is t-shirts on there that I have designed. Spent a lot of time, and not that I didn't enjoy my time playing around with the graphics programs and designing up these t-shirts, but each of them really has a message that has meant a lot to me. They have a message, an idea. There's something behind them. There's something more than just a t-shirt. So go check out those t-shirts. A lot of those t-shirts also have stickers that go along with them. But go check out Prepare.Defend.Lead.com. That's a great way to support this podcast and what I'm doing here. Also, go and leave a review if you would, and share this podcast. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't getting all tongue-tied here, so that you don't miss an episode. Leaving reviews makes a big difference. As I always say, your review might be the difference between somebody skipping by this podcast and somebody going ahead and downloading an episode and listening to it and having it help them find the direction that they need in their life. With all of that, hold fast and God bless.